Zoe Hull is a high school senior. Zoe has been totally isolated from life since the death of her deceased mother. She goes hunting one morning with her dad Todd. He guns at a deer that does not die immediately after being shot. The father and daughter have two choices: wait and let the animal suffer in agony, or humanely kill it. As Todd attempts to explain what a better choice would be, Zoe takes up a rock and smacks it on the buck's skull. Todd is taken aback by her lack of concern for the animal. He understands her peculiar behavior stems from the trauma caused by her mother's death. Later, over breakfast, Zoe has a hallucination of talking to her mother, as she does regularly. She knows it sounds weird, and she hasn't told anybody yet, but talking to her is the one thing that makes Zoe feel better in life. Lewis, her best buddy, comes to take her up for school. On their route, they are bullied by a car full of their classmates, who cause their car to crash. Zoe observes Chris, one of her students, putting something in the center of the field while Lewis was trying to start the car. She finds that strange, but it is common for someone like Chris, who is an outlier. At school, today is senior prank day. Both Zoe and Lewis are terrified of the senior kids' pranks on professors. Mrs. Jane, Zoe's chemistry teacher, sees her distinct change in behavior post her mother's untimely death. She attempts to talk to her about it, but she is immediately ignored. Following that, Zoe discovers a prom invitation from Lewis inside her locker. She never wanted to attend the prom and is terrified of having to turn him down. They meet for lunch at the cafeteria, but she tries to dodge the issue. Lewis brings it up and insists that he is asking her out as a friend, because he doesn't want them to stay home, while the rest of the school is out having fun. Zoe appears to be unhappy and excuses herself to visit the restroom. Simultaneously, other harmless explosions are taking place across the city. The cops, paramedics, and firefighters are all working hard to keep the situation under control. The explosions are obviously deliberate. When Zoe enters the restroom, she notices a bully named Anna hiding something in the AC vent. She investigates the vent after the bully has left, but discovers nothing. Back in the cafeteria, a vehicle crashes through the glass door and strikes a boy. Chris, a boy Zoe had seen earlier that day, gets out of the car and kills the injured man with a shot to the head. He is joined by three others: Anna, from the restroom earlier, who is also Chris's sister, Tristan, the gang's leader, and Kip, the school's loser. They are the ones that put explosives all throughout town to distract the cops and come to blow everything up. They immediately murder a few individuals to demonstrate their power, and keep the others silent. Zoe is about to leave the restroom, when one of the injured females bursts in and begs for her aid. Zoe panics but is unable to save her before she dies. She realizes something is happening in the cafeteria, and discreetly slips outside to examine the situation. Tristan, the leader, informs the kids that they are now captives and must obey all of his commands. He notices a man in the group, who used to torment him in the halls on a daily basis. Chris kills the person, to which Tristan instructs Chris to remain cool and only fire when authorized. Kip goes to the restroom to see if everyone has left. Zoe detects this and rushes up the vent before being captured. She then crawls through it in the hopes of reaching the opposite exit. Meanwhile, Tristan instructs a girl to take out her phone and call someone she cares about. She contacts her mother, explains the situation, and expresses her love for her. The mother on the other end of the line vows to contact the cops right away. Tristan informs everyone that the police have been notified, so they can avoid attempting to phone them covertly now. He even lets them phone their parents one more time before they die. The kids do as instructed and offer a heartfelt farewell to their loved ones, in the event that they do not return home today. The vent breaks and Zoe falls to the floor as she is above the kitchen. The noise draws Chris in, who searches for the intruder. A woman was hiding in the kitchen. She goes out to save Zoe and takes the bullet in her place. Zoe is taken aback seeing her lifeless body on the floor, but she quickly recovers. Tristan then contacts the school's receptionist, and informs her of the hijacking of the school. She does not believe him, but quickly alerts the security guard and the principal about the same. Zoe manages to sneak out of the school through the back door in the kitchen. She meets with a group of students, and explains to them about what is going on inside. Following the call, Tristan instructs the captives to begin a live stream on whatever platform of their choice. He wishes to make a statement and inform the entire world of his actions. The stream begins, and he requests cooperation from all platforms, stating that if the feeds are banned, more people would die. The principal barges in with the security guard as he presents himself to the world. Instead of being afraid, Tristan welcomes them in and asks if they understand why he is doing all of this. Tristan was sent to the principal's office twice last week for poor grades and inappropriate behavior, according to the principal. The principal referred to him as a worthless individual, who would never amount to anything. But for Tristan, the shootout means more than simply a few encounters. He is a smart, educated boy who has experienced bullying and beatings at the hands of the community. The principal attempts to calm him down, but is fatally shot. But the security guard is allowed to flee. Lewis has the most live viewers of the captives, so Tristan assigns him the primary videographer, and moves him to the front. Meanwhile, Zoe visits each classroom to inform them of the situation. While some professors try to ignore her, believing it is a hoax, others trust her. Still, informing them one by one will take a long time. Zoe sounds the fire alarm, so that everyone may escape on their own. In the electrical room, however, Anna murders a guard and smashes all the switches. This silences the alert, and everyone who has left their classroom returns inside. The receptionist announces over the speakers that the school is on lockdown and requests kids to remain in their seats. The first group of police officers shows up just then. Although several networks have begun to broadcast the news, Tristan wants them to broadcast the live feed on national television. When Zoe eventually makes it to the receptionist's desk, a bag of explosives detonates, killing everyone but her. The attack had previously been arranged so that the kids would not be told, but the explosion was a little late. Zoe has a vision of her mother speaking to her, and telling her that the situation is crazy. When Anna appears in her path, she pretends to be dead. After she goes away, Zoe bangs on a classroom door to keep others informed. Anna, on the other hand, hears her and comes hunting for the source of the disturbance. Zoe attempts to flee, but her leg gets shot in the process. The girls wind up at the teacher's room, which is filled with balloons prepared by the seniors as a joke. When Anna is defenseless, Zoe lurks inside the room and strikes. She manages to shoot her dead after a little fight. Meanwhile, Tristan's address and family history are discovered by the police. When a police officer arrives home, he discovers Tristan's mother dead on the sofa. She seemed to have been there for several days. Tristan obviously murdered her. Meanwhile, Tristan keeps Chris in control at school and heads to a Spanish classroom. The instructor pleads with him to stop, but he forces her to remove her clothes. She is forced to stand in front of the camera, while hundreds of people watch her on the live feed. Todd then learns of the incident and hurries to the school in his pickup. Several parents, police officers, and news media have gathered outside at this point. Chris begins to hear voices in his brain, which is why he decided to join Tristan on the expedition. The voices cause him to open fire on the cops outside. Tristan's attention is drawn to the disturbance, and he returns to the cafeteria, taking the Spanish professor and her children with him. Kip then runs into Zoe and chases her behind, shooting at her. They wind up in the slippery hallway, where Zoe knocks him out with a fire extinguisher. She then drags him inside the theater, and shackles him to a seat. Her mother reappears and discusses how Zoe is preventing her from dying completely, because she cannot let go of her. When Kip awakens, he notices her talking to herself and believes she is like him. Zoe questions him about his involvement in the shooting. In middle school, he was stripped naked in front of the entire class. People have been giggling behind his back ever then. Zoe inquires whether he has ever considered that the individuals giggling were just joyful. She ridicules him for murdering those who had nothing to do with bullying. She also notes that if he is engaged in the shooting, more people will speak about the assembly event. The remark appears to spark his trauma, and cause him to awaken from the misinformation Tristan has given him. Zoe goes outside to get Kip's pistol and sees Mrs. Jane escorting her students. The teacher notices the gun, and believes Zoe is also a shooter, but she quickly clarifies that she is not. She assists them but refuses to go, until she has assisted the other kids. Mrs. Jane also joins her before they go to the library. Todd is told by a rescued student that his daughter assisted them and stayed in school to aid others. Tristan instantly realizes that someone is assisting the pupils in their escape. He dials Anna's phone and asks to speak with the person who is responsible for all of this. Zoe tells him boldly that she murdered Anna. Tristan summons her to the cafeteria in 5 minutes, before he begins slaughtering the hostages. He shoots a random female to show her that he is serious. Todd sees this on the live broadcast and pulls out his hunting gun, determined to save his daughter himself. Zoe runs inside to see Kip, who is now in deep sorrow. This makes it easy for her to influence him to switch sides. She places her whole faith in him, and delivers him the handgun before heading to the cafeteria. Tristan is astonished to discover that Zoe is the one causing him problems, as he recalls seeing her in the corridors a few times. She confidently approaches him and challenges him. Kip appears at the rear just in time to defend her. Tristan chuckles, knowing that Kip was never good enough to be involved to begin with. Chris kills Kip in the ensuing gunfire. Zoe and Lewis seize the opportunity to flee while Chris pursues them. Lewis explains that he was shot after fleeing for a time. Zoe leads him to a room and places him on a couch before kissing him. She agrees to go to prom with Chris and dashes outdoors, hoping to draw him away from her. They wind themselves in the chemistry lab, where Zoe switches on the gas, causing a little explosion. Todd, who is now in the woods behind the school, is drawn in by the flames. He crept in to save his daughter. Chris eventually finds Zoe and is ready to murder her when Todd shoots him dead. After the gunshot, the police quickly apprehend him and imprison him, but he is happy to have saved his daughter. Tristan dials Chris's number, but Zoe answers. Her mother is by her side, encouraging her to fight even harder. Zoe sends Tristan a photo of Chris's decomposing body, and asks what he thinks of it. Now that he is alone, Tristan sees his entire strategy crumbling. He enters the van and detonates a bomb as a final resort. On the live stream, Zoe informs him that all of his efforts have been in vain. He intended to make a statement, but the audience would remember her instead of him. Tristan loses his mind when he realizes it's true. He picks a random person and takes him to the rooftop, leaving the rest alone. Zoe comes to the cafeteria, and notices that the bomb has barely 40 seconds to detonate. She urges the students to flee and rushes the van outside. Thankfully, no one was injured in the explosion. She then returns to the hallways, where she is arrested by a SWAT officer. Zoe's mother bids her farewell and departs, having finally been released from Zoe's heart. The sheriff then approaches Zoe and shakes her hand, admiring her bravery. He informs her that Tristan was killed in an explosion. She had a brief conversation with him before going to meet her father, who is being taken down by the cops. He expresses his pride to her. Lewis is also being led into an ambulance and is no longer in serious condition. However, Zoe spots someone odd leaving school. She gets her father's weapon and pursues the man. The individual excavates some money near a river. Zoe points the weapon at him, realizing that Tristan most likely faked his death to get away. Before approaching him, she fires a bullet into his chest. He hasn't died yet, exactly like the deer at the start of the movie. But, unlike the deer, he does not merit her pity, so she abandons him to perish in agony. In the final scene, she returns to the school grounds and informs the sheriff of what transpired. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know your thoughts on the film in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and also watch some of our other videos. And before you go, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps.